7 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Agenda at 7 p.m. in person and virtual at the Town Hall. And I'd like to start off the meeting by saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go into public comment, would somebody like to make a motion?
At this time, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we open the agenda under new business and that we add an item for discussion and possible action, and that would be regarding the supplemental packet that we received today on the solar farm.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Would that be item 7D?
7D.
7D, yeah.
Okay.
Can we make it 7A by any chance?
Absolutely.
Yep.
That way we can keep them
Be
on.
right along. Thank you.
Make it 7A.1.
There you go.
Linda, you got that? Thank you.
So is there any other public comment speakers? Jay?
Ready?
You're right. Well, I don't know. Yes.
Hi, Jay Breads, 25 Hanover Farms Road. This is going to be the quickest and easiest thing you need to hear tonight. I am here because you might not know it. I play in a band, and we play almost every year at the gazebo out there. And there's not a huge problem. This is the smallest problem the town has. But it's awkward to set up a band at the gazebo because there's shrubs, right? You can't set up in the gazebo because nobody can see you, or you have to set up in front of it. There's a garbage can chained down there, right where the drum set wants to be. So I would propose, and I have some written proposals here. I don't know what the protocol is. Anybody want one? There's pictures and everything. I would propose the removal of several shrubs and the moving of the garbage can. Just something to consider, to be nice to the musicians who give their time and have to set that up, because it is a little bit of a hassle and it's awkward. I don't think the shrubs really do a lot. I thought about it. I don't think it's going to make it look awkward or anything. It'll actually enhance the usefulness of the gazebo. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Is there any other public comment that's not in the realm of the solar array, because we added that as an agenda item? Is there a hand up over there?
Jim Bush, like to say something?
Yes, Jim. Jim, are you out there?
Perhaps not.
I think he's maybe going to the... all right, so next we're going to go to the correspondence for the planning and zoning and the ZBA training completion letters. I don't think we have to act on
Informational. The
yeah.
statute requires that they be provided to the board of selectmen.
And that's to show that all their people have been trained, which is kind of new to the...
Well, just those people.
Just the board of... okay. Just for the...
Those people have completed their required training.
Okay.
And I'm assuming,
Yeah.
I'm assuming Morris will let us know when he actually finishes.
He did say that he wasn't complete.
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe we don't have any appointments that I know of, correct? Number 4. Number 5, we're looking for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I'm
I
sorry.
would make a motion that we approve multiple minutes at one time, but I would ask that we hold one off as a separate vote, because I would be abstaining. So at this time, I'd make a motion that we, in one vote, approve February 6th February 8th, February 13th, February 20th, and February 29th. And hold February 21st for a second motion.
Do I have a second on that?
Yeah, sure, let's move.
Everything except February 22nd, 21st. Is there any other discussion on this? On any of the minutes? Yes. Amanda.
So for the page 3, oh, I don't know which dates I didn't write the done date. Yes, so page 3 of the first one, the note minutes from February 6th. Under number 5, the vote is 6-0-0, but Tim hadn't left yet. So I'm thinking it was supposed to be 7. Because it was 7 at under the first vote for 5. And then under 6 it says Tim left, so I would assume that line that's by itself where it says Armora seconded, motion carried 6-0-0, I think it should be 7-0-0.
I would agree with that. Anybody disagree with that?
And then, so I want for the meeting where we discussed the fire
Or did
commission budget, which was, let me see if that was one of
the
the,
clerk has a quick question?
Oh.
Can I squeeze her in here?
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Linda?
Is it Linda tonight?
I saw her face once. Linda, you have your hand up, you can go ahead.
Back to the motion on the minute. Was that because the minutes were moved to later in the meeting? Even though they appear where they were supposed to be, weren't they voted on later in the meeting?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. We moved them.
You're right.
We moved them to the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That makes sense. Okay.
Go ahead.
Good catch.
Then it was, I just want, where we talked about the fire commission budget. Which date was that? Sorry, there's lots of minutes.
That's the 20th, is that the 20th?
I think it was.
It's probably, I think it might be,
Or
it's
before
either
that.
20th or 21st.
Yeah.
Wasn't the 23rd.
That must have been the 20th, because it was near the last one.
Sorry, I was doing this on a plane. I should have took better notes. I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah, that's the 21st,
the 21st,
pretty sure.
that's one we're not voting on right now.
Yeah.
So I should leave that. Let me go to it and make sure. Yes, okay.
Fire commission.
So I'll leave that one until we talk about that one. Under senior and social, is that the same one? Okay, that's the same one. Recreation, that's the same one. Okay, so my rest are for the next one.
Is there any other comments? If there's no other comments, we'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes as stated earlier? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. That's 7-0 in favor. So now we're gonna have another motion. Yeah.
Excuse me, I have to abstain from the 29th.
Oh.
So wasn't that just in that group?
It was indeed, yeah.
Oh, yeah, man, yeah, well, no,
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
I wasn't in
Pam,
attendance.
would you like to rescind your motion, correct?
I need to make, since we just cast out a vote, I need to make a motion that we will, I'm on the prevailing side, so I would make a motion that we rescind that vote. And I would make a new motion, sorry, Linda, that we,
29th.
So the first four.
I make a motion that we approve A through D
Good.
for the minutes A through D. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7-0.
Now I make a motion, that we approve the minutes for February 29th.
Is there a second?
I can't go second, Tim.
Oh,
Tim seconds it.
okay. Is there any discussion? Amanda, I think that's, no?
Oh, she had the 21st, she's correct.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so it's
And
One abstention.
I
two
abstained.
abstentions.
No, two of us.
two.
Yeah.
absent-
Actually,
Okay, so,
No, three of us weren't here, okay.
Yeah.
Three abstentions.
so we have 5 yes, or 4 yes,
And three abstentions.
and 3 abstentions.
And she did the abstentions,
She
right?
wants to know who the extension.
The abstentions are Bob Moore, Amanda Gordon, and Gwen Marion.
We're not
Which
present.
one of those, or was that you?
No, you were at the,
21st?
you had it right.
This is, we're on the 29th.
Oh, we're on 29th, okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 21st, 2024.
Yeah, second that.
Any discussion? Amanda?
Okay. So for the fire commission, I just wanted to, I thought we should add that these changes, the bulleted changes were made to the fire commission option 1 budget. Because we were provided with 2 different budgets. And then there's one line under senior and social services. No, not that one. There was, oh, no, sorry. Under police protection, I think that's supposed to have an extra 0. It should be 10,000,
Yes.
not
Yes, 10,000.
10,00.
10,000.
And then for senior and social services, I thought maybe we should add that, we added to adjust for wages that the Board of Selectmen had previously approved. Like, that's why we added the money there.
At the finance
Well, we
commission.
reduced the line item, but added in to adjust for wage changes that the Board of Selectmen had previously voted on. To make it clear to the public. And then for recreation, I thought we should clarify that we completely reduced the director's request and added funds in to, because of her $6,000 raise. Just to provide clarity for how we got to the final numbers.
1844.
Yes, so we reduced
Got
the request of 4,000 plus that they had, and then we added, well, it ended up being a net change of positive 1844.
Right.
But just explaining that was reducing her total request and adding $6,000 for her salary increase.
That sound right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other comments?
No, second agrees.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One
So,
abstention.
6 in favor and Pam Sawyer abstains. Okay, is there any ongoing business?
Mr. Chairman, can you go back to public comment? I think we have some members of the
Oh.
public here.
Okay, so we're gonna back up to public comment momentarily here. And is Jim on the line who would like to speak? Jim?
Yes.
Oh, well, aren't they on the agenda now? And you're not supposed to
Did you
be
invite them to speak at,
the public comment?
or do you wish them to speak when we go into the item on the agenda?
What's that?
Initially, we moved public comment here, so they would allow the speakers to speak on item 7A-1,
Okay.
which is,
They'll speak at that time.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't want anybody to be ignored.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I just thought you were looking for Jim again. So do we have any ongoing business that
No,
should be
nothing
brought up?
that I can think of is not on the agenda.
Okay, so we'll move to number 7, which is new business. So we're gonna start with 7A1. And if you ladies would like to speak now, the floor is yours.
No, go ahead. Because I was gonna reiterate what you said.
Okay.
So this is in reference to the solar array.
Solar farm.
Okay.
Proposed in Manchester near the Bolton Tower.
Brandon, introduce yourself and your home address, please.
Okay, my name is Fran Rokicki. I live at 19 Anthony Road in Bolton on Birch Mountain. And I have become part of a team that is trying to put a stay on the solar farm. It's on 250 Carter Street. So the solar farm company is from California, and they plan to cut down those trees. So they want 8 acres for the solar panels, which will be raised glass panels. And then they're gonna have to cut down probably more acreage. They're assuming between 12 and 15 more acres to make sure that the sun hits those solar panels. So what we've done is we've gone to a couple of meetings. We've contacted the state reps for Manchester and Bolton, and it affects Bolton even though it's in Manchester because this will be 500 feet from the Bolton line. And there's a gas line as you go down lower where they have access road coming in. And so they've had to go around that already, but they're in their test holes and, things going on because they're trying to catch where the water's gonna go. The people at the bottom of the hill already have French drains in their houses because of all the water that's already coming down. So once you take down all the trees, it's gonna be more water. But in any case, as far as it affects Bolton, if there is a fire there, it's gonna affect Bolton because it's a gas line. So that's why the 500 feet to the line on Carter Street to Bolton, and then my old neighborhood, Brookside Lane, Rolling Hills Trail, is less than 1,000 feet away. So it's pretty scary. But anyways, there is a sitting council for the state of Connecticut, and those are the people that make the decision where this solar panel farm will go. They have several sites, but they seem to like this one. So this property is currently under deposit. You can see it on Zillow. 250 Carter Street. Local approval was not needed. So the town of Manchester had nothing to say. It went right over their head. Unbelievable. The impact for Bolton will be that it's so close to the line, and I don't know if you've ever heard the solar panels, but they have a horrendous buzz. And it's all day and it's all night. So typically they put them in industrial locations, not residential, which is what we don't understand. The closest house is 30 feet away from the solar panels. So the first responder support from Bolton will be needed if there's a fire. So studies have shown that nearby solar farms can negatively impact residential property values, leading to decreased property assessments and lower property tax. So that's lower revenue for the town. The environmental impact, well, deforestation, habitat destruction. There is a painted box turtle that's his habitat. He has a little family in there. And there's a furry bat that are protected class, because our first meeting was with the Conservation Committee. And so they are included in their report. The proximity to the, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, Chinipsic hiking trail, a cherished recreational resource that traverses, conservation lands. It's protected by the Conscott Land Trust and the Manchester Land Trust. Is at odds with the industrial development because it borders that trail. So we've got several things that this is going to affect. It's not just cutting down trees, it's affecting residents, it's affecting wildlife, it's affecting the water, because there is wetlands in there as well. The water management, inadequate stormwater management, so far they've just given us as-built plans, so nothing's really been done yet, and they're just kind of feeling their way through the woods and see where they can put different things, because they have a pond that's for excess water, and it's not big enough for what's gonna come down that mountain. So then somebody said, well, put it on the other side. Well, there's houses there too. So no matter where they try to move these things, it's still gonna be there and coming down on all these homes. So what we're asking people to do who are interested in helping us is we're trying to ask people to write to this sitting committee. So all of this information is online. We have a Facebook page. And the sitting committee who makes the decision, again, Melanie Bachman at ct.gov is the executive director. And they have no bias one way or another. They're just trying to do what's best for the environment and for the business who wants to put the solar panels, even though they're coming from California. Okay. And the last thing is, we don't know about the noise pollution, how bad it will be. They've had several fires in upstate New York with toxic smoke billowing into surrounding community. And then we have the Eversource gas line. Given the possible fire danger, the site is too close to pipeline pumping billions of cubic feet of natural gas through, adding critical concern for our local and neighboring first responders. So please, if you can, write to the sitting committee. If you need more information, you can certainly look on Facebook, or you can call me or send me an email. Thank you very much.
Would you like to speak?
No, what she said.
So I think that'll end that portion of the public comment. Pam?
Can I just ask a couple questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Franny, the siting council should be holding public hearings. Do you have dates on the public hearings?
We have people that are going to speak.
Do you have the date?
I don't, but I can get them for you.
Thank you. And the next thing was on the supplemental packet we got on the request on this particular issue for the board to look at it. It had March 7th. What is the importance of the date of March 7th?
That's the last date that we can do anything. So all the letters that we can get to send in, everything has to be done. That is our deadline, March 7th.
So that's the end of the public comment date time? Is that what you're thinking?
Possibly.
So you don't know?
Well, that's
I
what they
don't
told
know
us.
definite, but that's, March 7th is our deadline. That's what we were told.
And we were only told 2 Fridays ago that this was.
Yeah, this is 2 weeks. 2
This is
weeks.
10 days.
So one of the things that I remember about the siting council is that they open a public comment. They also have, you can request standing in the particular issue, and the town could request having standing because of the proximity, if we so desired, or we could act as individuals, which I do not recommend because we are a board and we speak together on whichever way a vote is cast. And we could just, as requested, we could write a letter of support or opposition. So that's what I believe I've had experience with. But if one of the problems we have now is that we have a deadline from the information we've just received of March 7th, so we really don't have time to do a lot of investigative work. Jim, do you have any further information on this from the siting council?
Amanda's on the siting council's website now. She probably has the most up-to-date information.
Amanda?
It looks like there's about 20 people that have already submitted a request for public hearing and council acknowledgement on this issue.
A request for a public hearing?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Not speaking because it's open public hearing.
No, they've submitted a request for it, so I would hope that they would. And there's, it looks like Jason Doucette, Representative Doucette, has already submitted comments and a request for hearing as well on March 1st. Schedule, let's see your schedule.
Yeah, he came to our second meeting, Jason.
So that was a private meeting.
So, oh,
No, it was open to anybody who wanted to come.
No, I mean, it was held by the siting council, or was it held by?
Oh, no,
individuals?
by us.
Yes, thank you.
yep,
Sorry.
so I did find something that says public comment period deadline was 2/25. They did extend it until 3/7. Deadline for action is 3/26/24. Deadline for decision is 7/24/24.
Well, just read that, those dates again, please.
Yep, so the original comment deadline was 2/25. They
Yep.
extended it until 3/7. The deadline for action is 3/26/24. And the deadline for decision is 7/24/24.
So that means to me, if they're gonna hold a public hearing, they're gonna do it before the 26th.
Yeah, I would think so.
Except they're asking for public comment now, which means they may not be opening public, they may not be opening a public hearing.
You think they're gonna try to skate out of it? The public hearing?
Did we,
So,
Amanda?
did you receive a letter, Rodney, about this?
No.
Because it says January 29th, the Honorable Rodney Fournier. It's a letter to you about this project.
From home.
From Melanie Bachman, the Executive Director,
of the sitting council.
Siting Council.
Sorry.
So, do you want me to read it, or I can pull it up
Oh, I
on the
don't know.
screen? If that's helpful.
Manchester and Bolton all were notified, all the
So
officials.
they must have been notified.
But the letter didn't get to you, so this is the.
And that was just sent to Rodney, not to us.
January 29th, it supposedly came to town hall.
Does that say 0.99 megawatts?
999, 39.
So that shouldn't be under the siting council's jurisdiction. Anything over 1 megawatt is under siting council jurisdiction.
So they don't even have it. So who has jurisdiction?
Local.
It should be Manchester.
They won't let them touch it.
Well, technically, they don't have authority for anything under a megawatt.
Has the law possibly have been recently changed?
Possible.
So we saw part of the paperwork, and when they made their proposal to buy the property, they said they wanted no public comment. But then when we heard about it, here we are,
Who said they wanted no public comment?
the buyers. It's a California company, Wayne.
So I think they are supposed to be excluded, but they received, the council received a notice of election to waive the exclusion from council jurisdiction.
Manchester opted to waive it?
No, I think it would be the siting council.
No, the siting council. Because the
Well, I would say
buyer asked for it.
that's probably your, there's four possible. The endangered species is probably your best bet. Impervious surfaces and the drainage is gonna be your second best bet. If you can prove that it is 250 acres of contiguous forest, then that could be another out for you guys.
I don't think there's 250, do you, Matt?
Contiguous?
I don't think there's that much there.
No,
Contiguous mature
I
forest.
wasn't
I think there's something like 41 to 50 acres there.
yes.
And then the other one is the fact that you could appeal it legally, that they don't have jurisdiction. I don't know how that works, but
So
those are
basically,
three most likely.
what I'm reading from this in like common person speak is that TriTech knew that the council shouldn't have jurisdiction and they are requesting an exclusion from that, you know, they're trying to go around the fact that this council doesn't actually have jurisdiction and they are petitioning for a declaratory ruling.
I don't know why they just didn't make it 1 megawatt and just have it automatically under their jurisdiction. It's odd that it's right up to it.
And will they stay that?
Oh, I
And they
know.
also couldn't
Oh, you
tell
know
us
why
where
it's
they
below that?
maintain it.
Because that now they're not subject to prevailing wage. So the IRA law anything over a megawatt is subject to prevailing wage, so now they don't have to pay that.
Increases the
But
cost.
they'll add to it later.
Correct.
That's what we're afraid of, and, yeah,
Yeah, if you're gonna clear the extra land, no damn well, you're
They're
gonna
gonna add
expand
to
it.
it later.
right. But they can't tell you who's gonna maintain it if something goes wrong.
Listen, excuse me,
Go ahead, Bob.
I serve on the Northeast Regional Conservation Council, and we have been reviewing various applications coming in, and most of them that have come before us, that we've seen and commented on, have been on open, basically it was former farmland and open farmland. It's easy to do, isn't near any homes or anything else. Even on some of them, they're really, are put on good farmland, which is basically taking off the site. And we have actually written in opposition to it. Not very successful, but we have. And I've gotten to look deeply into these things, and my concerns, unfortunately, there's the two issues that you mentioned that you have a shot at are the environmental issues. Those are the ones that are key issues here. The deforestation of an area that is never gonna come back because you're gonna have it on there until 15 years from now, when that becomes totally obsolete and they're gonna have to get rid of it because it will be obsolete. You have a solar guy down there, in 5 years, what exists today is gonna be ancient history. What exists 15 years from now will be a dinosaur in generation of electricity.
Right.
And what bothers me more in the overall picture of it, all this is done under the guise of energy efficiency and saving us money. How come Connecticut is either the highest or second highest state as far as energy cost? And we have all this additional energy available, and lo and behold, what is this near? A natural gas pipeline. You build one natural gas facility anywhere near that pipeline, it will supersede any of these sites that are available with what? What kind of impact? Zip impact, because that facility will generate power for 50 years, sunrise or sunset. Yet, this is what we have to deal with. And unfortunately, I wish I had more than just my aggravation to put forward, some ability to stop this, and add some common sense to what's going on. Yes, there's a place for all of this, but there's a logical place for them. This is, to me, an illogical location.
Residential, it should be industrial. It shouldn't, it should be on, as Pam and I had the conversation, it should be on tar or concrete. It shouldn't be on land.
And also, you wanna have an area that'll be 5 times bigger than that? Mount Trashmore in Manchester. You want an area that has absolute sunlight, build on the side of that.
Trashmore. But that's not ready for 3 years.
Yeah.
Tim made the comment, but certainly follow that, because it has to be capped for 10 years before anything can be done on that, but it's a brilliant site spot. Looking at the way this is written, it appears that the town of Bolton, because it is within 2,500 feet of the proposed site, would have standing in front of the siting council. If I'm reading between the lines, it's not obvious, but that's how I would,
Right.
because we are co-mentioned with the town of Manchester. I have been a long-standing position that I do not believe in solar panels unless they are already covering imperviable,
Impervious surfaces.
impervious surfaces, thank you. Whether that's the tops of buildings, whether that's covering parking lots that's already existing, or land that can be used for no other purpose. I just saw one in Framingham, a big solar farm, and it's in the entrance ramp to Route 90 from Route 30. And in this piece of land that has no access to it, because it's surrounded by this entrance ramp, they put solar panels. That's different because it wouldn't be farmed, it wouldn't have any other usage. But in general, I do not believe in using arable land. We do not make any more new land. And it is just too important to me because of clean air that comes from the woods that are already there, the arable land that can be used for other uses. And we have so much blacktop and we have so many roofs that this could be put on if they wish to. So that's my position, and I would state that as a board member, but only as a board member. I would not go out and do it as an individual, because I am a member of this board, and I believe sincerely about sticking with the board.
Amanda?
So, I don't know enough, to have a stance, but I do think, like, regardless of the pros and cons of the project itself, I do think that the public should have the right to comment on it. And I do think, I do agree with Pam that given this letter, we do have some type of standing, and I would argue that the next steps based on this letter are for Rodney to call this woman, Melanie, in the next 2 days and state that we have concerns and ask that it be brought to a public hearing, and that we could also submit a collective resolution as a board that we would like to request that it go to public hearing.
You have 2 days.
Right, which we can do.
That's
We
plenty
can
of time.
vote on that now.
Yeah.
A phone call is easier than a letter in 2 days.
I think it's more impactful though if you give a letter.
An
or-
email.
Email or a letter.
Email,
Email or
fax.
phone call, both.
Yeah. All three, do all three.
I'll go to the letter.
Is there any other comments?
So it is under contract for $300,000 currently. This is a purchase going forward that they didn't think was gonna be found out.
But I'm assuming it's subject to, it's gotta be conditional. Nobody'd be stupid enough to do
So
that.
previously, the owner who had that land passed, and now it's in a trust with an attorney. And so what we found out was that he wanted to put in 26 houses in there, and they wouldn't let him.
Right.
Because it's too wet, the animals, wildlife. But yet this, and they said they're gonna put a big fence about it, because we said, what would keep animals away from running into it? Well, we all know that deer jump over fences, and then they'll get stuck in there. I mean, it's just a mess.
Amanda?
For anyone who wants to look, that website that I was looking at has all the environmental plans and all, like, there's a myriad of documents. It did say it would be surrounded by a 7-foot chain link fence. I did read that bit.
National Electric Code requires 7 feet.
And that's lovely to look out your window and see. One of the houses is 30 feet away. 30 feet with children.
The other thing I might suggest is you may want to reach out to Jay Moran and see what he has chosen to do, if anything, with regards to, because he got the same exact letter.
Jay Moran.
He got his in
The
November.
mayor of Manchester.
Mayor.
He got his in November. He didn't come to any of our meetings. People were a little outraged about that.
Yeah, yes. Is there any other comments? As a board, yes, go ahead.
No,
So this board will decide whatever we decide, and that's fine. I would say the fact that they're trying to double dip on preventing prevailing wage while also taking advantage of the siting council to go over the head of Manchester, probably another way that you could do it. I don't know what impact we're gonna have. It may be, you may have to go to Pullman and Conley, and file a lawsuit. I don't, just
Okay,
saying.
so one of the things that we do know is that my partner in crime called Bethany because she right away looked up where else they had hit. So there's one in East Windsor, but the one in Bethany has a stay. So it wasn't canceled, but it was stopped. And it was because they had 20 letters of petition. So we're hoping that we can get more letters, because if they see that there's interest and, what was the word they used? If your property abutted that property, you had more preference. And so those people have all written letters.
Can you find the turtle and make a nice cute video?
We thought of it, trust me, we were in those woods, we were looking, we tried.
Yeah,
There are currently 17 letters, not including Jason's.
I still have to send mine, so that'll be 15. And then Steve Weir,
It's not on here yet.
yeah, no, but there is gonna be a meeting at the state, and he said he's gonna try and be at that meeting, and Jason Doucette will be there. The other, I'm not sure I'll say his name correctly, yeah, he didn't respond at all to us either.
so Steve's trying to get to the siting commission's meeting, is that what I heard?
Yes,
And that's before this 2-day deadline, or?
no,
does that even matter?
their meeting at the state capitol will be after this. This is
Okay.
just, I think, for us, public, they extended us to the 7th.
Okay, that makes sense.
They may be calling a private meeting.
Would it be appropriate for us to request a public hearing on behalf of this board and also the citizens of Bolton that may be impacted by this facility? That's my thought.
That would be a very appropriate request.
Well, since I tend to fumble when I put forth my motions. Go ahead, you want to?
I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen draft an email to send to Melanie at the Siting Council, specifying that we would like to request that petition number 1609 go to a public hearing on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and other residents who may be impacted by proximity to the proposed solar farm.
Thank you. Second.
Second, all in favor? Any other comments? Yes,
I think you should say the public hearing to be held by the Connecticut Siting Council. I don't think that was in your motion. Because
Yes.
it couldn't sound like it's under that.
did somebody document this thing? This public hearing?
It would be run by the siting council.
No, the motion she just made.
Linda's got it.
Linda's writing it down.
Oh, can you get that to me in a very short order, Linda? Okay,
You can write it down again.
okay. So, any other questions?
I'll make a second motion after this go.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 7-0 to forward an email to Melanie from the Siting Commission in reference to 1609 to go to public hearing.
To be
To be,
followed with a phone call. And,
With a phone, right.
yeah, followed with a phone call too. I don't trust these people.
And fax it. No, I'm serious, take the email, fax it, so you got 3 lines that you communicate with them.
Right.
Oh, yes, we do.
Dealt with this council a couple times.
okay,
Different people.
yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen will reach out to the same person at the Siting Council and ask for standing for the town of Bolton on this particular issue.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion on that?
I have a question.
That's not
You
your
can't.
position at this point, sorry.
Motion on table, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 7-0 for a motion to ask Melanie for the town of Bolton to have standing on this issue. Okay, so, I guess you ladies are free to roam at this point.
Oh, they know all this.
We're done.
Oh, she sent it to
Can we just have a recess, Mr. Chairman, at this time?
I'd like to call for a 3-minute recess.
Thank you.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
It's 7:49, pointing at the Board of Selectmen meeting, March 5th, and we're back into session here. And we're on new business, which is 7A. Consider an act on Herrick Park and Indian Notch pricing, and to pick an effective start date for new pricing. If we agree to new pricing. So the current Herrick Park rates are, and I believe the current, as it's stated, is for a yearly pass.
No, Herrick Park is a rental fee.
That's the rental.
Okay, so that's for the gazebo.
No, it's for
The park building.
Okay.
at Herrick Park.
So they demand $400 up front and $200 is refundable? Is that what happens there?
Right, so the rental fee is, $200 with a $200 deposit for residents, and non-residents is 400 and, oh, that's the current rate, is 400 and 400.
Yeah.
And one of the concerns we have is that, this is when we have to pay overtime for use of Herrick Park for our staff to unlock and relock, it costs us, without benefits, with overtime, about $200. So we're at a point at which we're probably breaking even on the resident fund, on the resident. And so, the question is, are we at a point in time where we should consider increasing these rates a little bit?
Amanda?
Is the current rental time 5 hours?
It is not,
What's the current rental time?
between 9 and midnight.
This is
It
Herrick.
is at the request of the, may I?
Yes.
It is at the request of the renter, what time they would like to rent it. If there's going to be a party or something like that, and you usually say an hour before, an hour after, but it could be.
They could do 10 hours and it's still the same?
Yes.
Oh, geez, okay.
And that's why they want to move into the 5-hour limit, because
Got it.
you could almost have 2 events in one day.
Right.
So if we decided we wanted to, that would be a separate step,
Right.
because if we wanted to go that route, that would require negotiation with the union of the staff who are responsible for unlocking and locking.
Would the reduction in the time limit reduce the cost of the locking and unlocking, or is that only when they actually are on the road?
Probably not, because it's an hour and a half for each time they respond.
Gotcha.
Gwen, you had a question?
I was asking whether the 9 or 10 hour usage was the same fee,
Same fee.
regardless of what the number values were.
That's correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the current demand of Herrick?
It's high.
It is?
Really?
Okay.
It is?
It's one of the few facilities around that small where you can hold your own event and have a kitchen, bathrooms, and free parking.
So it is free parking.
Yeah.
And is it mostly residents or non-residents?
It is more residents than non-residents.
Okay.
But the word has gotten out that it's a bargain.
And what do people use it for?
A lot of birthday parties,
Oh, anniversary.
Anniversary parties.
Yes.
So, does anybody have any suggestions?
And so you mentioned the 5-hour part of it would be a separate consideration aside from the
So,
fee part?
so what we found in doing research is that most facilities have like a 5-hour limit, which is probably pretty adequate for most events.
Yeah.
And there's 2 pieces to that, right? It doesn't tie somebody up for an entire day, who has to be able to respond to unlock and lock. because it's the same person who's on call that weekend, shows up in the morning to unlock, and goes back in the evening to lock and put chairs away and sweep the space, sort of thing. So that gives them a little bit more of a concise time, you know, that they can do other things, right? And then the other thing is, there is a possibility, frequently we get requests for more than one person to use it on the same day. Saturdays are very popular.
That was my,
And so, you know, if we sat down and had a conversation with the union and came to terms, there could be the possibility of renting it twice on a Saturday. But that requires certainly more work to do that.
to clean it in between and.
Well, and we have to negotiate with the union because it's union staff that are opening and closing.
Any other questions? I would, go ahead.
So are you suggesting that we divide this into two issues? The fee is one issue, and then the 5-hour limit is the second issue, not to be decided together?
I say the 5-hour issue goes in, no matter what.
Oh, I
It's the
thought
two
that,
per day that's union, I think, right?
Well, what, if we wanna
I
start,
see.
Two per day.
Right.
If this board acted on rates and decided that a 5-hour limit was appropriate, then that would open the door for us to be able to have conversations with staff and the union to find out if there is some amenability to the possibility of allowing 2 rentals in one single day.
Would you recommend 2 separate motions?
I don't think it has to be.
Tim?
Is it necessary to increase the deposit as well? Or could you just?
I would say no on that.
We haven't really had issues with that.
So I would suggest we just keep the deposit at the same.
The 200
I would too,
and the
2
300?
and 4, yeah. Yes.
May I ask a clarifying question? So so if I'm a resident and I wanna rent Herrick Park, am I giving you $400 up front, 2 of which comes back to me, or am I giving you 200, which then rolls into becoming the rental fee?
No, you give us 400 up front.
But if you want it all day for the 10 hours, now it's gonna cost you double that.
600.
All right, let me put a motion on the table and see how it
Yeah.
applies. I make a motion that we increase the rate to rent Herrick Park for a 5-hour limit for the residents of the town of Bolton. They could, with a $200 deposit, use the facility for $300 rental fee, the $200 to be refunded if the conditions are met. For a non-resident, it would be $450. I'm sorry, let me take that back. That would be a $300 deposit, and it would be a $450 rental fee.
Okay, so,
$300 deposit.
Should we just keep the deposit the same, or? Unless we have issues with, sorry to interrupt.
it was 4.
Would you be more comfortable with that?
I don't really care. I'm just
All right,
thinking logically.
I'm going to amend my motion before it gets published.
Sorry.
Resident would be $200 deposit and $300 rental fee for 5 hours usage to be established per event. For a non-resident, it would be $400 for a deposit and $450 for a rental fee.
5-hour rental fee.
$450 for a rental fee
Yeah, I'll
for
second.
5 hours also should be established per event.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Good, you got a second. Any other discussion on this?
I'm still confused about the deposit and the fee.
So if you came to us and asked to rent Herrick Park as a resident, today we would ask you for 2 checks. We would ask you for a deposit of $200 and a rental fee of $200.
So it cost me
It
$400.
costs you $400 day one. After your event.
Yep.
It takes us about 2 weeks to process.
I get
your
the
return.
200 back,
Correct, assuming that
assuming I don't.
you've left the place in good condition.
Yep, so it's only $200.
And under the rules and guidelines that the Board of Selectmen have had for 900 million years, it is the one facility that with appropriate insurance, people can consume alcohol at.
Yep. So it also puts it in a position where we have to come up with that much money to rent it.
Yep, and I have just a follow-up
Yep.
question. These proposed rates, how were these derived? Was it just simply from looking at these other comparables at the top here?
And a discussion, and the staff had a discussion
Okay,
before
so,
making this
so
recommendation.
they feel that this is
In line,
commensurate with, I mean, is it what this facility costs us to run, or is it just based on comparables, or is it just based, I mean, there's a number of ways to derive the cost.
and I think the answer is yes to both of those. It's based on comparables, and, right now, the easy one that we can figure out is the cost of the labor to open and close and clean, right?
Yep.
But there's also maintenance to the facility, there's electricity.
It's a facility, we're talking about putting a $20,000 roof on.
Right. And so, when we had this discussion, and this discussion, started with our recreation director and with our executive secretary, and progressed and included me a little bit, and included John Butcher-Movich, our director of buildings and grounds, with a little bit of feedback from his staff, who are the ones that are opening and closing this facility. So that's, that's where the conversation started, where it went, and how the recommendations
Okay.
come.
Because personally, I think that that's cheap. I think it should cost more to rent that. It surprises me that it only costs $200.
Well, that was, we're bringing it up.
No, I'm saying, but you don't wanna price it too high and then have no one rent
Well, I
it
think
either.
the other piece of it is, it's a facility that the taxpayers support. Right. And
Yeah,
I think that, the idea behind the rental rates is so that it is achievable. One of the things that we see a lot of use in there for is young children's birthday parties,
Mhm.
right? And it's an affordable cost to be able to have, 15 or 20 kids running around having a great time. And if it's raining, you've got the inside of the building. If it's nice outside, you might have to share the park with others who are using the park, but the kids can go outside and burn off energy and have a great time. That is a very popular use of the space.
right.
And Bolton owns that outright, correct? There's no
But
state.
it's taxpayer subsidized essentially.
Right.
But
And we're trying to move it.
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
exactly the cost of, what it costs to,
Yeah.
maintain this facility and make sure we're not, I have no idea personally, but.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
What happens if someone's reserved it and they cancel? Do we have a cancellation policy?
I don't know the answer to that. It's a good question.
And would we keep any of their deposit? And then, I believe I heard a question up there, maybe?
Yes, groups, like a fitness group having a Zumba class or something like that, are they charged as well?
We typically have very different rates for them.
But that's town's recreation
They
sponsors.
will book it through the recreation department. So there are some things that happen there, yoga, Zumba, there's some, I think Taekwondo classes or something like
So what
that.
if they're not run under the town program?
So I know of a couple of, hard and fast rules. First and foremost, the facility is for town use. And so there have been times we've had to cancel their programs because we've needed it for a town meeting of some sort. So, town always takes precedence. And they are typically not using it on the weekends. They're only using it during the week, and we don't have a demand for rentals during the week.
What are they paying?
They are paying.
And what are they paying?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's a much lower rate. And we have staff on duty already, so we're not paying overtime for staff to unlock and lock.
So we're not considering changing the rates for those private groups?
They struggle to pay those rates often as it is. They don't, the programs that they offer, you know, they might have 5 people show up for yoga and they're paying $6 or $7 or $15 a person. So they struggle to pay those rates. So we've always tried to find a balance between having those programs available for town residents and, you know, covering some of the cost of the power and heat, so.
Okay, and then could I just have clarification again on what the motion was, the 2 different rates?
The motion was, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go
The
ahead.
motion was for residents to have a deposit stay the same as $200. The increase will be in the rental fee of $300. And the last new part is it will be for a 5-hour window.
Yep.
To be discussed and approved by the town. And the second one was for the non-residents, that it would stay the same at $400 also for the refundable deposit. And it would be increased to $450 rental fee also for a 5-hour window.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, is that it for discussion on this one? All in favor? Aye. Aye. 7 in favor?
We need one more piece of this.
Oh,
We should decide when the new rates are effective
Oh,
and not affect people who have currently booked it under the old rates.
are we gonna talk about Indian Notch too? Except we're gonna do that separately, I guess we are gonna do it separately, since we already voted.
and they're both going to effect at the same time?
Or that's completely up to you. If you're gonna do Indian Notch separately, I would finish this one and then move on to Indian Notch.
Okay.
So we like an effective date, and I think it should be important that we don't impact anybody who's already
So do
booked the
you want
space.
to make a motion to,
I would make a motion that the effective date would be July 1, concurrent with our new fiscal year, and that those people who have already contracted to rent with deposit paid be grandfathered in at the old rate.
I'll second.
all in favor? Is there any discussion? No? It's a 7-0. Okay, now for Indian Notch. So these are the current rates. Pavilion rate looks pretty low. What?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Down at the bottom, the regular season, what is the difference between the, what's current and what's proposed?
Regular season.
Is that her?
That's Lake Pass and Day Pass.
And pavilion rentals, the last name?
Isn't there a present pass?
Yeah, I'm looking at pavilion rentals at the bottom. I see resident $300, non-resident $350, and then the proposed rate written at the bottom says resident $300, non-resident $350.
So that must be for the pavilion?
But I don't,
And the pavilion rates up top are in red, 200, she's got them highlighted, 200 and 250. And then it looks like she wants to go to 250 and 300, correct?
Correct, that's how I read
Did
it.
you have an epiphany?
No, I had a question.
Yes.
I just want to clarify, we're only voting to increase pavilion rates. All the other rates that are included in this chart above are, we're not asking that, they're not
I think
asking
we
us to change.
should, I think we should table this, because I have not had a chance to discuss this with Stephanie.
And it does look a little
This
confusing.
is,
Yeah.
and I'm confused by it. I don't know the answer to the question.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we table this Indian Notch fees, and I would ask for somebody to second that.
Okay, second.
So moved.
Amanda, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
7-0. Indian Notch fees are tabled. Now we need to finalize budget to the Finance Committee, March 15th. So, I guess number 1, 7B1, the assessor's request for iCloud Business Service was hanging out there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it's a nice thing, a nice idea, but we can't afford it, because it's different time to move it. But we're not move, but I don't think we should add it to the budget. Agreed.
Does that mean you seconded the motion?
There's no motion, he said there was no motion.
You don't need a motion, do we?
Or
No.
discussion.
Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to add to the discussion? If there's nobody, I'll take a vote. Everybody want to move it forward? Say aye.
Sorry,
not-
I missed what we're voting on.
There's no, we didn't make a motion.
We didn't make a motion, okay. Is there anybody who doesn't agree that the assessor's iCloud basis service should not be included in the budget?
You had 2 negatives in that
Hey, you know, he's sitting next to me, so that's it, sometimes it rubs.
Left-handed thing rubs off.
2 of them down there,
Okay.
poor battery's getting eaten up.
All right, is there anybody who wants to add the cloud-based services to the budget? No? No,
Not at this time.
okay, so that's a no, that's a big plus.
And the reason that's there is because I recall discussing it, I don't remember us making any decisions about it one way or the other.
Correct. What about the part-time help for the finance department? That, we're thinking,
I think 20,000 is what we discussed. But again, we didn't make a decision whether we were gonna do anything with it.
There's other items that are not on.
okay. There's other items that are still highlighted.
That are still pending.
And do you have those highlighted there?
Amanda does.
What?
So you have them highlighted. What was the ones in future?
I'll just start the conversation. I just don't feel like I have enough information. It came up quickly in a conversation. Jill was attending a meeting and she was talking about how she feels like overwhelmed, but I don't, that's not enough information for me to base a decision on.
Anybody else have any other comments? Should we be waiting for Jill to come up with more? I guess,
Maybe, Mr. Chairman?
yes.
It might be interesting to find out what duties she would give to another part-time person, how she would restructure the department.
Yeah.
Give us
We
some,
we need to make a decision tonight. It's either in or it's out. We have to have a budget to the finance committee by March 15th.
then I would like to ask Mr. Rupert for his opinion.
I mean, I think I shared my opinion that I don't know how we would use this person. But the conversation I had with Jill is that she is, the team is overwhelmed. There are things that I need from them that often get pushed to the back burner, that I don't get in a timely fashion because of the regular workload that happens. It prevents us from moving forward on some things as fast as we could and accomplishing things that I would like to accomplish in a different timeline. I know that the comment I had from Jill is, where would I put this person? And my response to her is, that's a me problem, that's not a you problem. Right, but I do believe that Amanda asked a question about efficiency. Are there things that could help us, be more efficient? And part of the answer to that is yes. And part of the reason that we have difficult time achieving the efficiencies because we don't have time to implement those efficiencies.
Is it, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I may, ask Tim a question? And maybe Mr. Mora as well. If we have a budget surplus at the end of the year, could the board then consider hiring a person, a one-year trial?
We can't use this year's money in next year's budget. I think the other thing is if we feel like in
Could
this,
we encumber it though?
no.
Personnel? Thank you.
Tim?
I feel that there are a number of items within this budget discussion that we have no control over. And I appreciate that they're overburdened, but I think at this time it's tough without a job description and specific tasks that, and how it would help, coupled with possible efficiency improvements or restructuring. I know there was some discussion over the Board of Ed and town being separate. I know that's a major issue that we're not gonna fix in the next 1 or 2 sessions, but I think there's some options there. And given the fact that the budget's gonna increase anyway, it's tough for me to vote for an additional increase.
Okay, Amanda?
Jim, do you have any examples of things you've asked her for that you're not getting in time? I just want to get a sense for like what type of stuff is getting put on the back burner because of this.
Well, I mean, one of the things that just even having opportunities to communicate with her clearly, it's challenging, first of all, because, Jill's in a different building, and then, she's a staff of 3, and each of them have separate and distinct job duties, and when any one of them is out, they have to be covered by the other 2. And they're already 3 full-time jobs plus a little bit. You've got somebody who's generally in charge of accounts payable, you've got somebody who's in charge of human resources and payroll, and then you've got an individual, who's overseeing all of this and preparing reports and budgets for all of our facility departments and doing banking. So, there are requests for information sometimes take quite a while just to get information back that's often pretty basic. Communications are difficult, and one of the efficiencies that I've been trying to work in for the last 2 years is to get all of our department heads into the electronic finance system. But that requires somebody taking the time to set up permissions for every single user, training every single user. And that's an efficiency that I would like to bring in to the town, to all department heads, and to the finance department. We are shuffling paper all the time, and it's a waste of paper, it's a waste of time. Things do get lost. And if we could just get over that hurdle, that would help.
Jim, would you consider just thinking outside the box, a $10,000 increase for a consultant to come in and manage some of those items on a one-time basis? Could we put money into the budget for that? And then if we don't use it, or if it's more money, then you come back to us. I know this is last minute. I'm just trying to think, it's not the 20,000, it's not a permanent employee, but it may get us over that hump to get some temporary assistance to fix some of these issues.
Could be a good little summer help.
I don't think what Pam is suggesting is summer help.
No.
That's a consultant who's gonna come in with ideas that we have to implement, but we have to find more time and more people to implement.
No, have them hire temporary staff to do it.
You mean from a staffing
Temping.
service?
Well, financially,
Let me,
here,
Yeah. Bob?
and we don't have to expend the money.
no, I'm thinking the same thing, but I'm thinking, if we have funds now,
Extra left over.
Why not, why can't we do this now? Why can't this be done in April, May, and June? I mean,
We've already allocated $25,000 of leftover funds to a fire department strategic plan. I don't know how much leftover money, I mean, presumably more than that,
well, I
but.
mean, Jim makes a really valid point. Having dealt with the PO system, that's probably the most awkward system we have. It's
Awful.
Well, it's very time consuming, and you're right, it's heavy on paperwork. And I can't imagine how many hours, if we take a department head 5 hours, I would, 1 day of training, I think they should be able to,
Bring in a consultant to do the training, to do the.
The training isn't the hard part. We can do the training in-house. We've already had Kathy sit down and get some training with staff. The training is not the hard part. The hard part is somebody taking the time to go into this computer system and set up all of the parameters and permissions, because you can't have people going in there and changing things that they shouldn't be changing.
right.
Because it just screws up the whole entire world. And that is a Jill product. And there is nobody that can do it except for Jill.
Right.
So are we talking about like approval workflows and automated like transfers and stuff, like building that kind of thing out?
Yep.
In the technology?
So, transfers would not be automatic, but, right, but purchase orders up to the amount that department heads could approve would generally be automatic as long as the money's in the account.
Right now it's all on paper?
It's all on paper, and somebody over there has to input all of that.
That's why they're overwhelmed, they're dealing with that crap.
I need to get over that hump.
Change
So-
needs to happen, right?
The mistake was that the town didn't do this when they adopted the system days ago.
So what
I see what you're saying.
what other avenue is there? Because hiring a temporary person to use the same antiquated system seems like a Band-Aid.
The system's not
versus-
antiquated.
Oh.
It's the fact that we're not using it.
Right.
Yeah, well,
It's ready, it just is not implemented.
Okay.
Amanda,
So I'll make a proposal that the board allocate $25,000 to hire a part-time temporary worker for 1 year only, to be reassessed next budget season, to free up Jill's time to implement these changes. And then we'll reassess 1 year from now.
Or we're just proposing.
I'm proposing that I make a motion.
No, I'm proposing to add to the budget.
Yes, that's what, I'm making a motion to that effect.
they had
For
25.
discussion.
Go ahead.
How about we make it 20,000 and it's an intern?
And are you gonna get a qualified intern?
Yes.
Sure, intern works.
I'll second the motion.
If you're not sure about it, say I wouldn't agree to it. I want you to be,
It's just for discussion.
the interns that we have gotten,
Is it possible? Possible.
so $20,000 and possibly fill it with an intern. Because I would hope that,
Change in the motion.
because we're getting, through the Yukon MPA program,
Really good people.
we're getting some really smart young men and young women who've come through here to help us.
But we're also giving them access to
A lot of records.
our financials.
Yeah.
And that's a big responsibility as opposed to some planning on some wetlands. It's a different, I think it's a different kettle of fish. That's why I'd like to say possible.
Well, but if we can give them
But you
clerical
have to-
work to reduce burden on others,
That's,
right? And I think that's what Amanda is suggesting, is that we find ways to use a temporary part-time person to reduce the burden that allows the current full-time professional staff to go in and make these changes and get us over that burden.
and this is for a
1
pilot
year.
for a 1 year. And if
And
it's
then we'll reassess.
reassessment. And my second still stands.
And the amount is 20,000.
So you amended the motion to 20,000?
It was 20,000.
No, you said
You said
25.
You said
We did?
25.
Okay, 20. Sure.
Okay, I was gonna,
I amend my motion to be for 20.
because I was gonna request to
Second.
amend it, but thank you, you did, okay.
When?
Jim, what's your feeling on how receptive Jill is gonna be to this? Because this is gonna be a big change for her, because you're saying, Jill, you're not doing this work anymore, you're doing this work now. Like, total shift.
Oh,
And you got 1 year to make it happen,
So you know, and again, and this is where I have to really work hard as a manager. And we have to put a team together, we have to put a roadmap together, we have to communicate, and we have to work as a team to figure out how we're going to get there. Because we've tried this a couple of times, and we haven't had the resources to do it. This would give us the resources to do this, and probably some other time-saving things over the course of a year. But this is where the rubber really meets the road with what your expectations of me should be, right? Because so I really have to work very hard, you know, to cultivate that change and communicate that it's necessary and why it's necessary and how it moves our organization forward. And then, are there gonna be roadblocks? Are there gonna be difficulties? Yes. But, you know, that's part of the change of the culture that we have to rise up and meet as a team. And I think that's where it's not a Jill problem, it's a team problem.
Is there any other questions? Amanda?
I just want to comment that from, you know, my time on the finance, Board of Finance, team last year, it is very evident that Jill is overwhelmed, right? And there are things that I think the committee requested of her that take longer than we would like because she is overwhelmed. And in terms of some of what the finance committee this year is talking about in terms of turnaround and getting things out to the public, right? Like, we need someone, and Jill, I believe, is our treasurer, right? The town treasurer, right? We need her to be available during that process. And so I think we need to try this out and see how it works and implement some efficiencies, and hopefully we'll get the endpoint that we desire.
I do too. Is there any other comments?
No, I think it's much needed, and I'm glad we're going forward.
I think it's a good idea.
Your board representative.
Yeah, I like the 1 year
Trial?
right.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it,
Yeah,
given that.
right, and because the key element is, we feel, not feel, we have a good sense of the fact that a lot of what we do is simply based on older methodology of doing things, and there's far more efficient ways of doing it today, and we should adapt those.
You know, we have an almost $7 million look, you know, in our, and I think that demands a certain amount of professional respect to our people, but also to the pressures that we put on them, because we put on them as individual boards, and we put it on as administration as well, and the Board of Ed, trying to blend this all together. So I think it's a sound suggestion and trial to put in front of the townspeople, and I'm very comfortable doing that.
I think the amount of paperwork that they can get rid of, if that comes true, will pay for itself twice over. Just in getting rid of it.
I mean, what Amanda has done for us, just instead of putting a budget in front of us and all those kind of things, oftentimes has fallen on poor Jill and at the end of a very long day, and she's trying to sort things out. Amanda has really relieved Jill of that particular function right now, and it's been brilliant on Amanda's part, and we're grateful for it. So that's why I'm very much in support of this.
Linda, you had a question?
Now, I just wanted to confirm that we're still speaking of next year's budget.
That's correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna take a vote now, I guess?
Where would that item go?
Into the finance payroll budget?
Oh,
Is that where it would go?
Yep.
well, we don't really need to take a vote, right? We'll just add it in and then
That's
vote on the
correct.
whole budget,
Right,
right? So
yeah.
we're just adding,
Okay, and then we had,
oh, I reordered it.
You made a motion.
Oh, I did.
Oh, yeah, there is a motion.
There is a
There's a
motion.
motion on the table.
yeah, so we do have to
We
vote.
just vote on it, or she can rescind the motion.
I'll rescind my motion.
I'll rescind the second,
Okay, motion rescinded.
and we will just have a consensus
Okay, a consensus vote, all in favor?
Well,
No, we don't have to vote.
No,
It's
no,
just
vote,
consensus.
just the consensus that
Okay.
it'd be added into the budget and configured it
Okay.
as part of our total.
Without voting, say aye.
There you go.
That's funny.
Rodney's rules of order.
All the time.
Okay, so,
Amanda says there's a couple other things in the budget we gotta work on,
Yes, there is.
and Bob agrees.
Yes.
We don't, no.
We had left open,
It all falls under
well, it's all
finalized budget.
finalized budget.
yeah, we had left open discussions in the elections area budget. And I know they had requested an additional amount of money for technical people. And from the discussions, it doesn't appear to really, to need that. They wanted an additional 20,000. You recall that?
Oh, for the IT services?
Right.
We already,
We already discussed that, and let that go. Right, but when looking back, reviewing through the budget, I noticed that they have budgeted for four referendums at just under $6,000 a referendum. And we haven't, quite honestly, if we do our due diligence, you know, one, maybe two, possibly three, four,
You're recommending we delete one
that
of those?
$6,000 shouldn't be there. I think we should reduce it.
I agree.
It's not, it's five, I don't have the right, is it 599?
5,776.
Yeah, whatever that number is, I think it should be reduced by that number. And it noted that it's in that category of a fourth referendum.
Linda, you have a question?
I do. Is there any way that you can open the agenda? and
Yes, there is.
add Item 7B3, just because,
At this time, I would ask that put a motion on the table that we open the agenda to add 7B.3
Well,
just
to say
highlight-
other additions or deletions to finalize the budget to be put before the finance committee by March 15th.
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Thank you, Linda. Okay, so we're down to the 5,744, was it, for the,
Well, I've got
Is-
some other comments on that, yeah,
does
but,
anybody have any other comments on the election?
yeah, so I don't know how often we have a state primary. I feel like we don't often have a state primary. That would mean someone from the same party has to run for the same state rep position.
But it might be for gubernatorial, and might be
We
for
don't have
any,
gubernatorial this year.
we have presidential.
Right, but that primary is happening in April. So I think this primary that's on here, but she's talking about would be one in August.
So
But there could be a primary for Senate
there's one in the
For
fall,
Senate,
in August.
For House,
following year.
for the House seats,
What's that?
For the following year.
no, for this year.
Who's up? Murphy?
All, Murphy's up and all the reps are up, so technically there could be a primary for,
Right, but is someone gonna run, a Republican gonna run against Acker? Is a Republican gonna run against Weir? Is a?
no, not state, this is our federal representative, we're talking Courtney's seat,
They're up this year?
yeah, every year, every 2
Every 2
years.
years, so they need to or not. Congressional is 2 years, Senate is 6.
Yeah,
Right.
so this year, that's what that's for, if there's a primary on
A challenge.
for either party, the probability, there won't be a primary on the Democratic side, for Courtney's, I mean, he's
Right.
gonna be here, gonna be there forever. On the Republican side, I don't know, the question is, that's the one where there's flexibility.
I meant to do research into how often it happens, because I feel like it doesn't,
Isn't Mohammed Rama's seat up too?
No.
yeah, empty run. Yes, they all are.
Yeah.
But another Democrat's not gonna run against him.
No,
But we don't know if the Republicans would run against would have a primary.
Right.
Yeah,
Either one.
they may, that's the only one that might be a primary running against Courtney.
So my question would be, this first primary that's coming up in April, that should be in last year's budget.
That is,
Yeah,
all that
this
stuff is in
is
my head.
potential August primaries.
So the only ones that you would have would be, that would be doing, that's this one, are the ones.
State.
Yeah, no, would be the federal,
State
Federal
yeah,
state
would be Joe Courtney's seat, effectively, the only one, and if the Senate seat.
Right.
And I can't imagine a primary on that
We
one.
did have the Senate last time. there
Well, that
were people.
one, certainly Democrats aren't gonna primary the incumbent on either conditions.
Right.
But the
The
Republicans.
Republicans
Well,
might.
we could be pontificating on this, but the question is, should we or should we not?
Budget for it. So
Budget
yeah,
for
I
it.
guess it's potentially more likely than I thought it was.
And the budget for that is probably in the tune of
$22,000 between the early and
So
the,
if we don't use it, then what
right,
happens to it?
it goes into the,
Well, if you don't,
It becomes a surplus at the end of the
it
year.
becomes a surplus.
Goes into the finance departments.
Well, no, you
And
end
then it goes back into the
up,
budget.
after the audit, you use it
Right.
in
Yeah.
next year's budget.
so then the other question I had is, are we required to do recounts, or is that only if one is called for? Because that's another
Only if one
$2,300.
is called for.
So I'm saying if we cut, how often have we had recounts?
Oh,
Oh,
more often than not.
oh, yes, we have.
A
Yeah,
lot, oh,
not
yeah.
since
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last 4 years.
Well, that doesn't mean we won't have them.
No, but is it worth budgeting $2,300, or do we just eat it if we end up having one?
Is it budgeted for just the election, the one election? right?
Yeah,
Well, you hope that there's room somewhere else in
right,
their
to make it
budget
up.
Right.
to make it up, and if not,
We have to
then
transfer.
we move money out of some other budget.
Well, it,
To discuss, Mr. Munster,
Go ahead.
to vote Munster?
yeah, well, I know, there's been a number of them, but I'm going back to the point of, would there be excess in the unfired budget to do that? Should there be a recount? The answer to that is 90% yes, because the probability of holding, yeah.
So leave all,
To-
leave the three referendums, leave three referendums.
No, holding, what do you call it,
Primary?
primaries for the House seat or the Senate seat is pretty slim.
But we're talking now about
A recount.
recount
A
money.
recount, yeah, but, so that's what I mean, if that fund isn't used, those are dollars that could be transferred to cover the cost of the recount.
If needed.
So I would
I
suggest.
mean, but the question arises, I don't have their budget in the past, but is that the way they properly budget for it, is to actually budget?
So I think they did exactly what we asked them to do this year, which was to build us a
Right.
zero-based budget.
Right.
And so what they did is they looked at what they believe their potential costs are for every eventuality in the upcoming fiscal year. And that's what they budgeted for.
Right,
And what you guys were talking about is, can we take a risk and eliminate $2,300 and something
Yeah,
dollars?
2,352.
You know, saying, you know, is there a probability of a little wiggle room in this budget in case we have a recount?
That's after assuming there's only 3 referendums and they don't need technical support.
so, or you can go to 3 referendums,
Well, you already did that.
Right,
they already did that one.
right.
But I mean, historically, there's this misconception that we typically go to lots of referendums, but when you look at the data, we don't typically, we went to 4 one year and then,
Two is commonplace.
And
Three is not super irregular.
right, and if you have a lot of issues, you'll
Well,
go
one
3.
year,
4, no,
yeah,
That'll blow the budget.
but anyhow.
we did, we had to
How
stick
many
with the
one
last
year?
year.
12? But the
We had to stick with the last budget.
It's
From the year
referendums
before.
are all paid for on this year's budget.
There's no
So we're
discussion,
just
keep
next
it, keep it, move on.
Yeah, okay.
so I would recommend that we remove another 2,352 from the election budget on top of the 5,000.
I'm sorry, what's the number again?
2,352.
For a recount.
Is there any other discussion?
Folks are on payment.
Anybody going? approving, helping us, the consensus vote? We get a yes? Yes?
Sure.
Sure, okay. We'll nix them on that and hope and pray we don't have a recount.
Or have a little wiggle room somewhere.
Okay, all right, and what was next on the questionable?
I don't know any more that at this stage of the meeting. That was all yours, Bob?
Yeah, that was mine.
All right,
It's,
so
other, I mean,
finance,
most
we
of mine.
just did, so that's fine. So insurance, we were waiting on property
We got it today, it's 2%.
increase,
No, our increase is only 2%. We budgeted for 3%.
so we can
You
reduce
reduce that by the differential.
the whole property and liability
Oh,
by.
not property and liability, that we still don't have, we're talking about medical.
Medical's a big one.
That's a big mess.
So that's under personnel, right?
Yes, I think that's accurate.
Thank you,
That's amazing.
that was the other one.
Yep, we got that today,
2%.
So that's
hot off the press.
medical,
So we'll have to factor that in.
medical.
I have it as a note.
Well, so we had reduced by 3, we had budgeted 6,
Six,
we were at 3, and now
We can
we're
bring it down
reducing by
another
another.
Another 1%. And Jill might have to, you'll get close, but Jill might have to tweak it based on what the actual numbers are. And we're gonna do open enrollment beginning March 18th. So we will have true numbers of who we anticipate. We know who we anticipate now based on the coverage they currently have. Open enrollment will get us to that final number. And the school has the same information and they have the same rate.
So they both get reduced.
Right. And Kristen was very happy to see that. She and I communicated very briefly earlier today.
Okay, so we don't have an update on property and
I
liability.
still don't have an update on that, correct?
So the fire commission, I had left that that we were still gonna talk about salaries and benefits for potentially. At the end of last meeting. So as a reminder, we moved the money for the members back down to the proficiency fund.
29,974.
Yep, 29,200. We removed 1 lieutenant's worth of salary from the salary line item. We gave everybody, all the other officers, a 3% raise based on the numbers that Chief Dixon included, and we bumped him up from 15,205 to 29-ish?
29.5.
29.5.
And then
And then we reduced the training line.
because we got the truck
Right, we have credit.
sale, the credit. And it came out to a total of 287,514?
Yep.
Is that the
Yes.
number?
So I guess the concern that I raised before that I wanted to raise again is that I feel like we're being kind of hypocritical in raising the chief's salary, but not raising the board of, the first selectman's salary, in the sense that we said that we needed to do more research and go to town public hearing before we raised the first selectman's salary, but here we're kind of basically doing the same exact thing for the chief. Both are volunteer positions, both are about 25 hours a week, both of them were being proposed to be about doubled in amount, and so, I personally would be more comfortable doing the strategic plan and figuring out where that position needs to be before making a decision about where it should be. So my proposal would be to just do the 3% for the chief, same as with all the other officers, until we get the results of our strategic plan back. And that would have to be implemented in the following year, I suppose. The other similarity that I see is that both positions were considering this raise, first selectman and the chief's raise, with an eye towards longevity and sustainability of the positions and being able to recruit people into them. So I do see them as very parallel decisions. So that's my thought.
Any other comments?
I agree with that. I think it's a really good parallel to think about. There's been a lot of attention on, should we raise the first selectman's salary? And, hold off on it till the next board is elected, and now hold off on it till it goes to subcommittee, and then we need to go to a public hearing. It's going to be a very thoughtful process, and yet here we're talking about doubling the chief's salary just just on one vote with really with some comparables that were proposed, but no additional input, no additional thought or research. And so I think I agree with Amanda. I would agree with an increase in the chief's salary. And again, I also heartily support the addition that we made to the proficiency fund, because the chief's presentation was very much focused on how are we bringing in new volunteers, and that was an enticement to get the new volunteers in. So I agree with that, but I would say go a little bit slower on the increase in the chief's salary.
And Pam?
It's a position that is essential for the running of the department. It is a position that affects safety across the town, but also affects future training. And it is someone who uses the position to bring in recruits to fill the needs. We had that discussion earlier about salary, and if we don't put it in salary and we wait, it'll be another year. By the time we do the strategic plan, come up with the evaluation, it'll be a whole nother year. And I think that's wrong. I think at this time we should be voting on increasing that particular salary. If you want to do it for the first selectman because it's more political, it's more out there, I understand that. But I believe it's the fire department, and we're looking at the age of our chief and the discussion of possible retirement. I think we need to be proactive because we have studied the issue. That's my feeling. But I was also in the seat of first selectman, so I have perhaps a different feeling. Perhaps Bob and what experience you have so far, Mr. Fournier, but I believe this is the time to do this. And I don't think it's enough, but I will support the proposal.
Matt? We need a consensus around this one.
Yeah, it's tough. I hear Amanda's point in the sort of the parity between the two, and the perceived, I guess, inequity of the decision making around it. But I also hear Pam's point too. It's a good one.
Want to hear Bob's comments before you finish?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sitting here giving it some thought since I've been in, well, pretty much full seats as deputy chief and first selectman here. And there is put the political thing aside, there is another significant difference in what they do and how they do it. And that has to do with the daily support system. First selectman has his staff there all the time to do that. The chief doesn't. The chief, he has some staff people there on occasion, but his time is spent doing multiple functions, and they're continual. It's not one where Jim, could you check this, or Kathy, could you handle this, and that sort of, it's not there. Not in the same fashion. He could say, yes, Captain, could you take care of this? So that maybe in a week or two from now, we'll get some stuff back. But we're talking about the day-to-day operations. And that's the difference. You know, I'm in an awkward position in that, though I'm not an active member of the fire department, still a member of the department. But I still feel I have enough insight on this thing to discuss that there is a difference. And I appreciate what you're saying, because
Very much.
I know what you're saying. It makes sense if you look at it, sort of parochially on that way. But when you get down into the weeds of it, I think there's enough difference between those positions where I think you could move forward with the chief's position and not with the first selectman's decision until effectively next year and not be in conflict.
Tim?
Being fresh to the board and getting the budget proposal at first, it was a bit shocking to double a salary, but then at the last discussion, we were given a lot of context by Jim, and less Bruce, but more Jim was a little more candid and gave us more context as to deferment of increases in the past, which Bruce didn't really share with us, so I thought that was impactful, and I appreciate Bob's insight on the responsibilities daily, so I would support the increase. Frankly, I don't know that, it just seems like the first selectman's is pretty low as well, so I do appreciate that we're handling them in different ways, but I think I would support the increase in this case.
Does Amanda want to finish his thought? Yeah? Amanda?
I'm not gonna, hold up the process for this, I'm willing to go with what the majority of the board thinks. I did want us to have that conversation meaningfully, and I do think, I wrote down the points that you guys made that are differentiating those two positions, and I just wanted us to be very deliberate about it, so I appreciate you guys having that conversation.
Yes.
I totally understand where the point that you were coming from, but this is because of what it is. It's not something we have to suddenly add in August when we have some strategic plan in front of us. Let's increase the salary right now and do it retroactive because then it's not in the budget.
Now, you bring up a good point, and someone can ask that same question. That's how come it needs a response as to why, and I think this way, and why I think we should go forward. Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, I think he should get it. I'm approved of it. What, did you ever hear?
No, I don't know, I still think doubling is too much of an increase, but I would, and I'm not questioning the quality. I think our fire department has amazing quality. I understand how difficult a job it is, and I understand the differences between the fire chief and the first selectman job. I just think I'm looking at the doubling aspect rather than saying, let's just step it up, step it in toward a higher salary.
That's right. Okay. That was, okay?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm on board with it.
Okay, so,
Moving on to the next thing?
yes, moving on to the
Okay.
next, but the first selectman salary will come back.
2025.
So I did want to draw everyone's attention to the fact that the chart that you got in your packet, on the last page,
That Jill had given.
yeah, the number from FY 2024 is wrong. The total budget, so the total budget should actually be for FY 24, $6,775,605. There was something wrong with it. Yep, $6,775,605. The dollar value for the total for the assessor's budget that was in our original chart was wrong, like the formula wasn't working properly, so when I actually told the numbers in the budget, was a little different. It's, the assessor's budget should be 162,495 instead of 169,771. So ultimately, before the changes we made tonight, the difference between the budgets was actually a 4.74% increase, not 4.77, which is what was on the chart. That was just a point of correction. Then I had questions on,
Can I just ask this question?
Sorry,
Is this your document or is this Jill's?
I don't know who put that together.
Thank you.
Are we talking this one?
No, the budget document.
Oh,
The last page.
the last page, oh, okay, sorry.
It's 4.74, that's what the.
Oh, this one.
We jumped back.
Before this evening's conversation,
Got it.
it was 4.74%.
Oh, okay.
It's all gonna change, right, based on what we are talking about tonight. The other item I didn't have anything for is the transfer out to fund 3452 bond number 1, which is under the redemption of bonds. There was like there were negative numbers in there for prior years and there was nothing for this year, so I'm assuming Jill might be filling, so I just have a question. Do we need to put value there? I'm assuming Jill will plug something in there. And then I think I sent you guys an email this afternoon asking for clarity around the fire truck, right? So we had discussed needing potentially money for if we rolled the loan into a bond, right? And then we'd also talked about needing to cover money for interest on the truck loan. And so I didn't know if that was a both and situation or one or the other situation and where that money
The 25 to 35,000 that Joe had mentioned one time, was that the one?
Right, so we have put $30,000 in the bond and note expenditure, and that was
For the
to
interest.
cover interest, but then did we also need something? I don't know, those conversations were a little confusing to me, so I just
It
want.
looked, yeah, because I thought 35 would cover the whole thing, but if we didn't move, the 30,000 was just for interest, would be paying something like, it was a little confusing, and I'm
Like, if we're
still,
not moving it over to bond,
Right.
I don't think we need to pay any of those fees, and therefore this should be fine to cover interest, but I just want her eyes on it.
that's what I thought it,
So we did ask the question on her behalf, and we didn't have an opportunity to really communicate. It was a very crazy afternoon, but her response is, I put the correct amount of money needed for interest and loan expenses to roll the loan for the fire truck for another year into the debt budget. You can have it.
The correct amount for interest and loan expenses to roll the loan into the debt budget. So I guess the question is, did we not need to make that increase in the bond and note expenditure? If they're already up here under the long-term.
this is,
Oh, so that's the issue, is so she had outstanding short-term note interest, so if you look on the interest long-term debt, and I did check this to make sure it's right, you can see, zoom in a bit, she had put $30. And I think maybe she meant 30,000,
Wow.
cause like in the chart, I double checked. I was like, wait, I was like, shoot, I must have done a typo, but when I went back and looked at the chart, it does say 30 in budget number 67. So I don't know if that's supposed to be 30,000 and then we don't need the $30,000 under the bond and note or what. So we've got like, she just needs to correct whatever.
So it's just a question of $30 because you have 30,000 somewhere. And the question is 30, so where the placement of it, and Jim will talk to her about
Or
placement of
did
it.
she need that
Although we may also need the $20,000 in the bond and note
for something else?
for something else, right? Yeah, so,
so, what are the, we can, if we find going forward, we don't need that 30,000. We can always take it, I mean, we can reduce our, we can always reduce our budget, we
Right.
can't increase it, so, we get some information on it, we can
well, right.
reduce it.
But I guess what I'm worried about is that we need this 20 here under bond and note and an additional 30, so we would be short 20 right now. If we need 30,000 up here.
Where that's a misprint, it's,
Right.
yeah, $30 instead of 30,000?
Right.
Okay.
Is it in addition to, or is it that other?
I
So
think
should we
you-
just add
I think you have to add it,
the 30 in here just to be on the safe side, and we can always get rid of it later?
so make it 50, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I would make this one up here 30 and reduce the one under bond and note to 20, which was the request.
That's, yeah, that makes sense.
But it is rated.
Okay.
That way
I see
we
where
at
you're
least
going.
have it in there if we need it. And then this has historically been negative, so if she needs a number in there, then,
I should have my distance glasses from here.
sorry, I
No, it's not you.
tried to make it
It's my eyes, it's not you.
big as I can. Oh, God, not that big.
Oh, there we go.
Just kind of went under.
Oops.
Need a bigger screen.
So I did change, so I noticed in the budget that Jill put together, right, that it didn't include any capital or debt. So I restructured mine as well and came up with the total without the capital or debt. So right now, based on the changes we made tonight, we're at a total of 7,102,758, which is an increase of 327,153, which is a 4.83% increase. And then on the capital and debt, we're at a total of 909,375, which is an increase of 146,965, or 19.28% increase. That sounds really high,
That sounds very high.
but that's because we just added that $30,000. Well, we added $20,000 in there.
We can't go out there with a 20% increase in our budget.
Oh, these numbers aren't, this total budget, ignore this one down here, this one's not working right.
Get rid of the fire department.
I mean, that's just the debt, well, the 19,288, ignore the line 333, those are not, I mean, I can change it right now. No. That's wrong. Sorry.
Do we want to have Jim give his report while you're gathering your numbers, or you comfortable with what you got?
Well, so I guess we don't really, I mean, Jill's budget didn't have anything to do with the capital and debt, so those numbers are accurate. So
Okay,
in terms of the operating budget for the town, we're at a 4.83% increase.
For what?
4.83.
I just have a question about refuse.
yes.
too. Just so I'm clear in my mind, we have got a 22% increase, and I want to understand, but yet Jim reported last month that that our total weight of what we had to, what we threw away was down by 0.65. So is that weight checked on a regular basis, and then our fee decrease or increase depending on what the
So
weight is?
we pay by the ton.
So we pay how often by the ton? Every truck?
Every month, right? But what happens is the truck has a tear weight, an empty weight. And so what happens is they take the truck to the place in Wyndham where it gets dumped. Before they dump it, they go on a scale, they weigh it. Then as the truck is coming out, they weigh it empty. And they subtract those two numbers, and that's the tonnage that we're paying for. And that happens every single time a truck goes to be dumped.
And how often is that? Is that every week? Is it?
So your household trash is dumped every day.
Well, where do they pick up
So I
trash?
guess what I'm getting at is, when we're talking to the public about budget, and we're saying, can we say to them, you guys are throwing too much away, because we're paying, you know, we have a 22% increase because the amount that you're throwing away is just too much. It's heavy, 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 heavy. But that doesn't jive with the report that you gave us that we're down by 0.65. So that's, I'm trying to get a handle on, can we say to the public, the less you throw away, the less you're gonna spend?
Yes,
Or is it,
that's accurate, and I think, I've been spending a lot of time spinning my wheels on this one, but I think the easiest way to reduce household waste is to come up with an effective composting program. I've not figured out how to do that yet.
but I still wanna get a handle on what we're, why is it that we were down 0.65 in terms of weight, but we're up, our budget is up 22% for the total cost of refuse service?
Tipping people.
The fees are going up significantly.
Okay, so fees, regardless of how much we threw away, the fees are going up.
Well, they did go up, already, you know, this year. And sometime here in March, we will get the calculated rate for next year, which is based on the cost index.
So to the public, we could say, the fees have gone up, we don't have a control over the fees, but we do have control over how much we throw away, and that can help offset some of the increase in the fees. Is that
Right,
accurate?
so yes, and I think, so there's two things that we can do very easily as residents to improve that. One is get a better handle on our recycling and recycle appropriately. And then, you know, number two is, you know, if we can find ways to compost and reduce what we put in the waste stream, that makes a huge difference. So those are the things that we can do as a community that will make a difference at the end of the day.
And it also depends on the commodity rates for the recycles.
Right,
as well.
and those just have not been good.
Go ahead, Amanda.
And I'd also just say, like, letting people, I mean, maybe we could do some research into other towns that don't offer this, but more and more I talk to people, there's a lot of towns that do not offer garbage pickup, right? So this is a service that they're getting that many towns around us do not get.
Our taxpayers pay for it, though, they pay for it significantly.
Right, that's what I'm
It's one
saying.
of the biggest, most popular things we have that people feel that they get for their tax dollar.
Right, but just drawing attention to that, right? Like, saying that other people don't get that and with their taxes, right? Like, if we didn't provide this, that's an additional expense that they would have if they wanted this, right? Like, that.
Yeah.
Just, sometimes employers, right, they give you a letter telling you how much all your added benefits are on top of your salary, something like that. This is an added benefit, it's a service you're getting through the town. Not everybody else gets it, and so that's part of why our budgets is what it is.
And periodically, we've had to do that, just for those reasons, so understand that, you know, this is expensive, however, as far as if you were to do it on your own, you would find it would cost you considerably more.
It is individual.
Exactly.
So you basically want to take that number that we pay, divide it by the number of people, and just say, hey, this is what we're paying
Per
per
capita.
person.
Or per household, how
Per,
we do
well,
it.
you can't do household, because if there's
Could
one
we-
person.
Could we discuss this at another
Okay,
time?
yes,
And
we
have
can.
it as its own agenda item because of the hours after 9 o'clock at this point?
Okay, where did we end up on the,
So, the operating budget didn't change, right, 4.83% increase. The debt and capital budget is a 6.58 increase, overall giving us a 5.23 increase, which, if I recall, is very similar to last year.
on the,
Overall, not including Board of Ed, obviously. So the budget that we would present to the board, the finance committee would be 9,254,066, because we do present the debt and capital table, which is a dollar change of 459,913, which is a percentage change of 5.23. 5.23. Before any of, well, no, we have to vote on this, so hopefully whatever Jeremy's change isn't.
I think if you carefully craft the motion, you can allow the staff to make appropriate changes.
in the event that somebody comes in with a lower,
Well, I mean, you know, we just did something there with the 20,000 and the 30,000
right?
that we're making an educated guess on, but we don't know if that's accurate.
And same with the rec salary, right? Like I
Right.
never had someone confirm
Right.
the mincing
And,
that I
and
did
we,
there.
and with the medical insurance, you kind of roughly,
Right.
and so she might have to massage that just a little bit to make it 100% accurate.
Somebody wanna push a motion here forward to approve?
I didn't write the number down. What's the number that we're dealing with, please?
Oh, you can see it.
Oh, it's up there. Well,
7 million,
So,
or
and I'm thinking that there's nothing she's gonna change that's gonna increase the budget. And if you agree with that, you could say that not to exceed that amount.
9254066. 9254066.
925.
Oh, before we approve, there was also something in our packet from the rec department. Did we need to look at that?
It was the same thing you've already done.
Oh,
She
I should
adjusted,
check to make sure.
she adjusted the salary, but she didn't remove the taxpayer ask of 4,000 and change. She adjusted the salary.
I don't know. I wanna make sure that-
So,
I have
what's
it.
that? Did you make that change, Amanda?
She,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Amanda already did.
She already did, okay.
Well, I wanna make sure it,
She wants to make sure it jives with what she did.
because I didn't know, I wasn't quite sure what this thing was that we got from them.
Right, yeah. Not to exceed.
Right.
Oh,
This does not account for revenue.
oh,
It's a spending budget.
but did she? So now she's basically only asking us for 16 cents.
What? 16 cents?
Yeah,
No,
look it, that's what it says. Right?
The total,
But does this include her raise or no?
That was the whole
I thought that
purpose
was a
behind the
percentage.
agreement.
Well, it-
Am I misreading this? She's asking,
No, you're reading it correctly.
so she must have adjusted numbers elsewhere as well from her prior.
I will put that percentage, won't fix it. Yeah.
No,
Yep, you're right.
what number budget is rent?
She removed the town support.
Do you guys remember what number roughly?
No, but
Oh,
she-
it'll be in,
it'll be in your
31,
index.
31.
31 is correct. That's where the little tabs come in.
What else did she do? Alright, so she changed the salary from 55,672.48 up to 60,773, which is about, that's only 5,000. Not 6,000.
She already had 2.75%.
Okay,
Or
all right.
2.5 or 2.75.
Alright, so that's
So she only increased it by the difference.
19,2 is it? Oh, so that's the difference between mine and hers probably, well, 10,151,50,1,000, 2,254. All right, everything, oh. Oh, it includes the revenue, okay, she put the revenue
She put the
up
revenue
top. So it was just an additional 0.29 cents on top of that revenue that she already had in here, which we got rid of the 4,156 already.
Right.
All right, we're good. 16 cents she can make up.
Okay,
We're not gonna fight over that.
ready for a motion now?
I'll give her a quarter. Yeah, I think. I'm nervous to leave them back up. So, yeah.
Okay,
I'll move that we present our town budget, proposed budget of $9,257,254 and $66. And allow the staff to do any modifications as more data comes in, but not to exceed the proposed number.
Second?
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Unfortunately.
Did you say aye, Pam?
Aye.
You did, okay. That's 7, yeah.
Seconded motion.
Okay, now we're gonna move on
Board
to,
clerk has her hand up.
yes, Linda,
I didn't catch the second on that one.
that was Pam,
Okay.
sorry, okay, the only Pam we have here. The first selectmen's report, oh, no, report and updates. Oh, discussion on congressional direct spending grants. We have, any comments on that, or let's go for discussion, go ahead.
So I asked for this to get put on the budget. I attended a webinar, that was put on by Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal. The CDS Congressional Directed Spending Grants are open right now. There's a variety of, departments that you can apply under. These were formerly known as earmarks, but during the webinar, there was no deadline proposed, but they said probably the end of March. So the deadline's pretty tight. Last year, the Board of Selectmen, I believe, applied for 3 different grants, one under HUD for the soccer field at the high school, and then 2 under the agriculture department, 1 for the fire department master plan, and 1 for the fields at Herrick Park. And to date, we have not heard on any of those, or we were denied,
We
right?
were denied all of them
Did we apply through the senators or through,
through the senators.
so not through Courtney? I have no idea what the process is, what Courtney's process, Representative Courtney's process is right now. I haven't-
Similar, and I got an email from them.
Oh,
this
good.
week.
Okay, I don't know what their timelines is. We are able to apply for the same things for both to maximize our opportunities. All of these, I think all of them do require match if we apply for the agriculture, under the agriculture, section, which does allow us to apply for capital needs. Due to the size of our town, it's only a 25% match. As you get bigger, they have to, other towns have to pay up to 35% match, so it's a good opportunity potentially for us to go, for funding that we need. I was also thinking maybe that Heritage Farm could apply under the historic preservation, section, but I don't know that they'll have time to pull that together. That one's capped at $500,000, and I'm not sure, what the match is on that one, but there is no cap under the agriculture, section. It's really just improvements to a community building, and so I was potentially going to propose that we apply for the roof for Herrick Park and for the roof for the library, because those are 2 projects that we pushed out on our capital improvement plan, and we have received grant funding for both those properties that we could leverage and call it one bigger improvement project, right? We're getting money from the steep grant for the Herrick Park fields, and so improving the building only makes sense. And we got the HFPG grant for the patio at the library, so improving that building and potentially maybe adding some other stuff that they want outside. I know they wanted eventually like an awning or something. We could build that in too. I think we're in a good position with those 2 properties where we're already making other improvements, and we can build that as leverage into our request. But
What's the deadline?
March,
end of March,
end of March, you said.
vaguely. I don't know if they came out with a final deadline, but when I did the webinar, there was no final deadline. And I know, Jim has concerns about time, right? So I wasn't thinking we would do any major new projects, right, but things that were maybe already on our
So
radar.
Amanda and I communicated by email, and I think it's fair that all of you know that we had this communication. And, you know, what I said to her is like, you know, I don't think that we can do any big projects at this point. I think I think we're, you know, we've accounted for a lot with the 3 projects, the connectivity grant, which we have ongoing, and the other 3 projects that are pending. We're spread pretty thin as far as human resources are concerned and matching funds. But I think these, if we can pull it together in the time that we have allotted, I think these are manageable. And I think that's, you know, where our discussion landed was that these are not huge projects. These are manageable within our, you know, current scope of abilities. So I don't think that these would be a huge thing. Yes.
Jim, would you be using the same paperwork that you used the last time in submitting for the grant?
Well, it's the same general forms, right? I mean,
So that's,
so in the forms are not, they take me 5 or 6 hours a piece to fill out, but it's pulling together the supporting documents that takes the time, you know, more time.
and so these are the ones that we applied for a year ago.
Well, she shared with you the ones that we applied for a year ago. Remember, we talked about,
And denied.
we originally looked at possibility for 7 grants. And then when we looked at it and had conversations with the senator staff, we realized, you know, there's way more money here that we're gonna be accountable for than we can afford. So we dialed it back to these 3 applications. And these 3 applications, you know, all had merit, they were great ideas, but they were also before we received the other grants, right? And so now with those other grants, you know, we've kind of committed our funding to those other 3 grants. So I don't, you know, as much as I would love to say, let's go for this, you know, for the sports fields at the high school, I think it's more than we can bite off, both from the human resources perspective, as far as managing the project, and from a financial perspective from the town.
But in our budget, you know, in our capital budget, we've got most of that set aside pretty much committed for what we've got coming in.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, we don't have a lot, there isn't a lot there, there's maybe a few grand, but that's it. And all the major projects, each year, 100 grand plus that we have to commit to, and we just don't have that, that's the issue. Small projects make sense,
These aren't huge dollar amounts.
they make real good sense.
That and the money likely wouldn't come in until the very tail end of FY '25 or even into FY '26 because the process takes so long. So with the people, they haven't even honestly made the awards for last year's because of Congress hasn't approved a final budget, right? So if Congress holds up their final budget, it prolongs things, so we're not, no judgment. I mean, it would just potentially give us money to do it in a year-ish from now.
So where was the grant that was to bring water up 44 that got?
That's a US, we never,
That's
we
not this one.
chose not to
We
apply.
didn't apply for it
Because that was, at the low end, we were looking at $3 million.
That had quite a large match, remember?
Yeah, it was 20 or 25%, that's USDA.
That's my goal.
Well, and it's very, very larval. But the problem comes in with the match. And we have to find a way to, I mean, we're unable to find a way to cobble together other monies through other grants and other means to fill in the match.
But to apply for projects that are already on our capital budget, it's basically gonna save us 75% instead of cost us 25, right? Because we're gonna have to pay for these
Absolutely.
anyways.
The other thing I just, you know, want to be mindful of is, remember, at some point, we've got 3 bridges we're gonna have to deal with. The most important one is gonna be the Lyman Road Bridge, which is in the worst condition. Beyond that, eventually, we'll have to do at least 1 or 2 bridges on Shoddy Mill, and we'll have to do a bridge on Hebron Road. Those bridges, we call them bridges, but they're really culvert projects that make bridges. And each one of them has a price tag in excess of $1 million, and typically cost us around 50%. So I want us to be thinking about that, you know, as a down the road thing, but we had our engineering team look at the condition of these things on at least an annual basis. Lyman Road is gonna come up sooner rather than later at some point, and, we'll apply either under a state bridge program or state and federal bridge program, and we should get at least 50% funding, but it is something that's been on the radar, something that's been talked about for how long, Bob?
Yeah. Decade plus.
But Lyman Road is probably not gonna make it another decade.
No, we,
Okay, can we move this on?
Because of the hour.
Yeah.
Could we have a write-up on these suggestions so that we could vote on them on the 19th, and add it to the agenda?
So this is what we did last year, and I spent 2 weekends here writing grants.
Do you have a write-up on these?
No, we've not written grants for these two.
Okay, would you just run through them one more time? I know it's just a late hour, and
So they should be in our capital budget, so I was proposing item number, what are you doing? 22, the library roof, which is currently budgeted at, there's 2 years worth, so 65,000?
That sounds about right.
And then the Herrick Park Lodge roof replacement of 28,000.
and two separate grants or one grant?
One, right? Why not one?
Why not?
Yeah, one.
And there was a third one?
Nope.
Oh,
No, she said maybe we could consider if we get the information, rolling a patio cover in at the library as well.
They probably have an estimate for that already.
yeah, but we'd have to have it.
Manchester Island could give us an estimate pretty quickly.
We'd have to have it.
I mean, can we vote to have you
Apply for the grant.
fill in the grants and then we'll just vote at our next meeting on the dollar value?
I don't know if I'll have the information by the 19th, but I can fill it. It doesn't hurt for me to fill in the grant paperwork.
I mean, the number doesn't really matter as long as we're in agreement that we want to focus on those projects.
So it was the Herrick Park, which is
all dollar
28,000.
values we should be able to.
They're in here anyway.
With a 25% match?
20, yeah, that's what it would be.
So it's 28,000 plus the,
65.
So it's 73,000. Yeah?
No.
no, more than that.
About 93 or 94.
So you're talking 20 grand out of pocket.
And then,
But this is 93,000 that we would have to pay out of pocket regardless.
At some point, yeah.
and it will be 2 years, a year and a half down the road.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to draw up a grant application for the congressionally directed spending process for the Herrick Park roof and the library roof at about $93,000 and potentially add on an awning for the library at
Not to exceed?
not to exceed $10,000. Does that sound right for an awning?
It's probably double that, is my guess.
Just put it in
Not
20.
to exceed
Yeah.
$20,000.
Okay, so not to exceed 120,000 on the grant? So
113.
Oh, right, 113.
yeah, okay.
So grant not to exceed 113.
Second?
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 7-0, motion passed. So, we have an abbreviated report from properties and facilities.
Welcome report under properties and facilities. The finance has moved into their new digs.
I saw that.
I think, I haven't been over there to see them while they're there. Some of our staff has, they're getting adjusted. things are going pretty well, I think.
I stopped in today,
Very good, thank you.
and they're very pleased with their lighting
Good.
and seeing out the windows.
It's nice to have windows, yeah.
That they can see it.
Yeah, so I think that's the big thing, and,
I did ask them about comfort level for the AC,
Yeah.
the heat, and whatever in the draft, and they said, no, it's very comfortable.
good. The other thing is that, our first selectman and I recalled in a conversation earlier this week that the registrars of voters were hoping to hear this week from Secretary of State's office about getting that location approved for early voting. And if that happens, assuming that it happens now, we will work with them and plan a timeline to get them in there. I have gotten a couple inquiries about, when we might, allow public in for a viewing on a, open house. First of all, I would just state it's a public building. Anybody can go knock on the door during regular business hours and be let in if they're curious. But I don't think we're quite ready for setting a date for a public walkthrough of the building. We still have boxes kind of all over the place. Finance is just getting settled. They moved them in late on Friday. And if we are moving the registrars in a week or so, I'd like us to continue to talk about this and figure out when a date for, a public open house would be, because I think it's important.
I'd like to talk about at some point in the future signage, so that people know what it is and what departments it is.
The little register sign on the bottom doesn't work. It says registrar's office down on the bottom. Anything else, Jim?
Under properties and facilities, no.
Okay, anything, now let's move on to the budget report.
I mean, it's same report as last month, is what we have highlighted for you is the trash budget.
Any questions, comments? Then we'll move on to the budget transfers, which I didn't see any.
I don't have any, no, I don't have any.
Is there any questions on the tax collector?
She always does a great job.
First selectmen's report, just been busy with meetings. I went to the wastewater meeting the other night. That was interesting. They got a lot of good things going on. Well-oiled machine. And the finance, I've been to their meetings, and it sounds like things might come together with a pretty decent budget this year. And I think that's all I have. Anything for Jim?
I'll keep it, I did not have time to prepare a written report for you. Unfortunately, I think some of you know I was out sick 4 days last week.
I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, me too. It was unpleasant, but between that and being busy with the events that occurred on last Friday, we've been quite busy. A couple of things I did want to share with you is that the walkthrough for not Park, the walkthrough for Knoxville Municipal Center with contractors is occurring this Thursday at 10 a.m. I have gotten an indication by email from at least one contractor that says that they will be there. So we at least have some folks that are showing up that we're 100% sure of, and we'll take it from there. The other thing is,
Excuse me, Jim, these are contractors who might do the demolition?
correct.
Okay.
In our RFP queue, we put out that it is a mandatory walkthrough because we want whoever is gonna bid on this project to know what we're looking at. And the only way to really do that is to get a walkthrough of the project. So we have control of Knoxville Municipal Center, which is pretty easy, but John has also reached out to Principal Giard at Bolton Center School, because the other little piece of this is the greenhouse at DCS. And so we'll do that second after the walkthrough at Knoxville. I hope to have a great response. I hope that we get some local companies that show up and and bid the project. So that we have, that we have options and moving forward to get the best person for the job. The other thing I wanted to share with you, and this is really high level, and I can get you some more detail in the future. You've asked me a couple of times about the status of the grant funding for the connectivity grant. We started with $186,110. To date, we've spent $97,438.43. Those expenses have been for pipe, they've been for catch basin structures, catch basin tops, topsoil, grass seed, hay, and engineering services, base material, top material, renting a excavator to do some of the work. And we also, on top of that, we've paid for about $20,000 of work to be done by a contractor installing the drainage. And we also have $11,744.60 encumbered, which leaves us a balance of $76,926.97 to complete the project.
That's a reasonable amount, yeah.
Any questions?
And so that construction on the trail, that 76 is gonna be for the trail, right? I mean, the actual walking surface between the corner and the,
So we'll still have some more engineering fees, we'll still have probably some more grass seed and, hay. The money that we have encumbered, the $11,744.60, most of that is for, the surface material for the stone dust, the processed gravel.
is
for
the
the
town
surface.
crew gonna be doing that, or is there gonna be a different contractor hired to do the walking surface?
We approved the contract for that work, but the town crew will do the final stuff with the raking and the seeding and, clean up afterwards. The other thing that we've done under the grant so far is repaired or replaced driveway aprons that we had to cross with the project. And the other thing that we'll still have a little expense with is, if you recall, we've had Bartlett Tree Service has helped us with root and tree pruning to preserve trees during the construction process. I'm sure we'll have to have them out there a couple more times.
You feel pretty confident that the 77,000 is gonna cover the
Yes.
rest of the work?
Yes.
Good.
I had that conversation with our highway foreman. He's confident also.
Good.
Anything else?
Everything else has really been routine, with the meetings that I've attended and so on and so forth. Certainly entertain any questions anybody has, but a lot of it's repetitive from month after month with, the Capital Region Council of Governments meetings that I attend and those sorts of things. And obviously, we put a lot of effort into budget. All of us, including all of you.
And there's an effort going on for Kathy, being the emergency management, to
Oh, that's right.
put together, in the event case, we end up with a busload of individuals.
No problem, I can help.
She's putting together a team, and I happened to be at St. Maurice, a meeting at St. Maurice last night, and I asked if they were interested in being involved with offering their hall, or I more or less recommended that if they did want to be involved, to maybe just do food, because Kathy's putting stuff together for it, so she's working on it. So hopefully a plan will be together that we can use.
The only thing I would add is, based on the information that was released by Connecticut State Police today, it is apparent to everybody, it should be apparent to everybody at this table, that one of our resident troopers was involved in the incident on Meadow Road. that he will not be able to provide service for the town of Bolton for some period of time, and we are working with the Connecticut State Police to find a suitable replacement until he's able to return to service. That's just the inner workings of the state police as they conduct their investigations.
So we're looking for a time for March 19th meeting.
I'm gonna be away. I had long-standing vacation plans. I didn't know that this meeting was gonna be scheduled, so I won't be here that night.
Enjoy your vacation, don't worry about this
Yeah.
meeting.
Do we wanna go 5:30? I don't, 6?
Six.
4?
Yeah. This is not, and remember, this is the time change so that it's light.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
I would just like to do it before 6:30. Beyond that, I'm happy.
Yeah, the staff is here too.
6.
So 6,
6.
okay,
It should be short.
should be, we can make it longer though.
Thank you, Roger.
Is anybody gonna?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh,
That's fine.
6 o'clock.
all in favor? Aye, that's 7 in favor